What's up everyone, welcome back to another episode of How to Win at Fantasy World Cup with me, your host, the worst Fantasy World Cup player of all time, Luke. I want to say if you're not following me on Twitter, and that is pretty much most of you, then I've put a link to my Twitter in the link below. We can talk about football, we can talk about betting, we can talk about football betting. I'm lonely over there. Get involved, go and follow me via the link below, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much. Any player can make as many transfers as they want to between the group stage and the round of 16, so we are in this unlimited transfer phase. It's not a wild card. I personally still have my wild card and all my other chips as well. What I'm going to try and do in this video is talk about the best team that you can have going into that round of 16. Whether you have your wild card or not, whether you have your other chips or not, I'm going to try and cover both angles, but obviously with the fact that I still have mine, some of the strategy is going to be geared more towards that. If you've been following the other videos and you've seen my team, you probably know that I'm doing very poorly. Thomas Muller, Manuel Neuer, James Rodriguez, pretty much all of my other players.
I just simply turn around and tell them to fuck off.
I still have my chips. I think I can save a respectable overall ranking, although at the moment it is absolutely terrible. I'm outside the top 400k. I can't believe I'm even saying that. So if you're wondering how I'm qualified to make these videos, I'm not, basically. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is unlimited transfers, who I want in my team, who you probably want in your team, depending on your different chip situations. We're also going to be looking a week ahead to the quarterfinals as well, because it's very important, especially if you don't have a wild card, that you need to know the permutations, you need to know who could play who in the quarterfinals as well as the round of 16. As I say, that's especially important if you've already used your wild card. So we're going to do a bit of looking forward as well. Not too much of that. We're going to keep most of the focus on the round of 16. And I'm going to be looking mainly for the cheaper, higher value players. Everyone knows who the best players are. What about the cheaper, better value players? We're going to take a look at those in some detail as well. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to looking at the best players that you can include in your unlimited transfer team going into the knockouts. Then we're going to look at my team, how it's currently shaping up. I'm sure it will change many more times before the deadline. But before both of those things, we're going to look ahead to the quarterfinals because it's very easy to work out which teams will be playing who in the quarterfinals from the round of 16. So I'm going to pull up an image on screen now and you'll be able to see very easily who plays who. So basically anyone that plays on the same day in the round of 16 play each other in the quarterfinals. So the teams that are in this first bracket, the two winners of those games will play each other in the quarterfinal, and the second bracket, the two winners will play each other in the quarterfinal, and so on. Moving on, goalkeepers. The goalkeepers that I want to pick from are as cheap as possible. I think there isn't too much value in the goalkeepers. There's a lot of value outfield. So I want my goalkeepers to be cheap. As we saw with Neuer in the group stages going fairly expensive. Wasn't a good route, and that is results orientated, I know, but I want someone cheap basically. Because I'm bench boosting in the round of 16, I need two decent goalkeepers that both have a decent chance of a clean sheet. For me, it doesn't matter if both of my goalkeepers play on the same day, but if you've already used your bench boost, you're going to need to make sure that your goalkeepers rotate both in the round of 16 and in the quarterfinal. But if you've already used your bench boost or you're not bench boosting in this round, you're going to need to make sure that your goalkeepers rotate. And by rotate, I mean they don't play on the same day in this round and they don't play on the same day in the quarterfinal. So this means you're going to want to pick two goalkeepers from different brackets. Looking at the budget keepers, the obvious one is Kawashima from Japan. He costs 4.4, he's played every game so far, but obviously he's very likely to be knocked out by Belgium. Of course, this doesn't mean they will be knocked out, but it's pretty likely that they're going to be knocked out, which means he's probably going to concede as well. But for those of you looking for the cheapest nailed-on goalkeeper, Kawashima from Japan is your option. If we look up the prices a little bit, you've got Caballero at 4.9. Pretty sure he will have lost his place. I said pre-tournament he was great value. Surprise, surprise, I was wrong. Armani at 5.0. Looks like he's probably going to be replacing him going forward, although with their group and with their bracket, perhaps you'd want to avoid Argentina completely. Mandanda for France got 6 points in his last game, but he's going to be outed again by Hugo Lloris. So the other cheaper options that we've got at 5.0, Sommer from Switzerland, Akinfeev, however you say his name, from Russia, and we've also got Olsen from Sweden. And then if you jump up just 0.1, you also get Kasper Schmeichel from Denmark and Guillermo Ochoa, pronunciation isn't my strong point, from Mexico. So you've got quite a few decent, fairly low budget keepers, and remember the budgets have gone up to 105 million in this round, so affording a little bit extra in each position is now possible. Personally, I'm avoiding all goalkeepers from the first bracket, so that's Uruguay, Portugal, France and Argentina. Especially without a wild card, I would be avoiding those teams. They're just way too unpredictable. If I was to go out on a limb, I'd probably say that Uruguay beat Portugal and France beat Argentina, but really, who knows? It could be anyone. Let's move on to cheap defenders now. Grankvist from Sweden should be in everyone's team. At 5.1, he's already scored 2 penalties, got 2 clean sheets as well. He's somehow only owned by 10.1% of the game, but I can see this increasing massively. I think he'll pretty much be in every active player's team. Maybe some people might be concerned with him getting knocked out, but they've got a relatively easy fixture. They've probably got the best fixture they could have hoped for. Sweden also themselves aren't the best team in the world, so who knows if he gets knocked out, but there's massive value in him at 5.1. I think he'll be in pretty much everyone's team, so you should probably make sure he's in yours as well. I tipped him pre-tournament, Varela at 4.6. There's a bit of uncertainty whether he's nailed on, so I'm going to be waiting for team news on him. If he does look like he's going to play, he could be worth considering at 4.6. I know he's from that first bracket, but when it's a defender at 4.6, that's a lot different to looking at a goalkeeper at 5 to 6.5 range, because the defenders can get involved in other areas of the game and other areas of point scoring as well. So he's a lower price and has a higher point ceiling than the goalkeepers. So I don't think at 4.6 he's worth ruling out completely. When it comes to the filthy cheap defenders who provide massive value, I think they're a little bit hard to come by. I still wouldn't be surprised if Yoshida from Japan at 4.4 nicks a goal, but I do think Belgium will beat them, as I said with the goalkeeper situation. So whether you want to take a punt on him, not too sure, but with the dirt cheap ones, yeah, a little bit tricky in defence. Let's move on to midfield. If you think I've covered defenders too quickly there, as I say, we will be looking at my team a little later on, so I can talk a little bit more about each position there. When it comes to cheap midfielders, again, Japan, if you think that they could provide an upset, I don't know. But Inuit at 4.6, as an enabler for your team, even if you don't have your wild card, I think he's a good pick because you can just stick him on the bench, even if they get knocked out. At that price, you're not really losing out on too much if they do get eliminated. Obviously, you'd want a bit of luck. You don't want all your team to get knocked out, but with that price, it just allows you to invest all of your money elsewhere. So he is a good pick in my opinion. Other than Inuit, I've been trying to look really hard at set piece takers and especially penalty takers. Now for a midfield, these options are actually very limited. In the first day's bracket, every team's penalty taker is a forward. In the second day, you've got Croatia and Denmark. Both of their penalty takers are midfielders. You've got Modric and Eriksen. That's the only options on those days, and that's actually the busiest day, just 2 teams on the same day for penalty taking midfielders. For day 3, Japan again, Kagawa could get a penalty, who knows. And on day 4, we've got 2 defensive penalty takers. We will get to that when we look at my team. You've got England, Mighty Harold Kane, he's obviously going to take England's penalties. But then you've got Colombia. If James Rodriguez is fit, then he takes the penalties, but who knows whether he's going to be fit at this moment in time. Perhaps when you're watching this, you might be able to have more up-to-date team news and fit him in if he's fit, but it looks like Falcao will probably be the penalty taker there. So again, the options are very, very limited for midfielder penalty takers. Personally, I think that I might look to offload the midfielders that I think do provide some value and look to spread that money into the other positions where I can get penalty takers on my team. There's been so many penalties in this tournament. VAR looks like it's going to keep awarding them. I know it's quite, again, results orientated to say there's been loads of penalties so far. There's probably going to be loads more. It's not necessarily the case, but it does look like referees and VAR are quite willing to just give those 50-50 decisions towards penalties. The clear and obvious thing has a lot of clearing up to do. But as fantasy players, we can look to exploit it. So I'm going to be looking to load up on penalty takers where possible. In the cheap forward category, honestly, I don't know if anyone provides real value. At Croatia, if you do want someone dirt cheap, there's Rebic at 5.5, or more expensive, you've got Perisic at 8.5. Neither of these are really out-and-out strikers, I don't think anyway. I'm not too hot on Croatian football. I know Rebic got a goal, but he's not nailed on 100%. He's probably going to get subbed off if he does start, but at 5.5, who knows, it might be worth punting your team. It's not going to be in mine, but really struggling for the real value picks in the forward range. Falcao at 8.5, potentially could be a pick, but he is playing against England, and we all know that means Colombia are getting knocked out. If you haven't seen the news, football is coming home, so that means Colombia are going to be out, so you're going to have to use a transfer getting Falcao out after England win. There's also Dzyuba knows on these pronunciations, Russia at 8.1, but they play against Spain. Now who knows, Spain haven't looked at their 100% best. Russia could nick a goal, and if state-sponsored doping is around again, then I'm sure he'll do pretty well. Could be an option, might be on penalties. It's a bit unclear at the moment. If you're really struggling for budget, he might be worth considering. Personally, I'm going to be investing in forwards in this round. I thought there was a lot of value in the midfielders in the group stages, but now with a few teams going out, like Germany and Muller at 9, who was shit, but he was good value pre-tournament. I'm sure most people would agree that pre-tournament he looked decent value, so that's what we have to go off. You can't make these decisions in hindsight. But yeah, I think I'm going to move away from investing in the midfield and look more towards investing in the forwards, especially penalty takers where possible. Let's move on to taking a look at my current team. As I said earlier, this is massively subject to change. If you've been following this series so far, you'll know that pre-tournament I made a video and I made some decent picks in there And if I had stuck with that team, I'd have been doing a lot better than I am now. I got rid of Varela, I got rid of Augustinsson from Sweden, and I got rid of Harry Kane as well. All for players that underperform massively. So this team behind you is probably going to be the best team ever in the whole world, and I'll end up changing it and I'll do completely shit. But yeah, I am recording this with over 24 hours until the deadline. Expect me to change a few things, perhaps team news as well. Team news can always come out about injuries, about rotation risks, and I'm not one for picking players that are real rotation risks most of the time. I also have bench boost activated, so we will look at my bench as well. Currently in this team, I think I've got like 4 or 5 penalty takers, and honestly, I want to try and increase this if possible. And remember, I do have my wild card, so if anything goes wrong in this round, I can fix it in the next round. I'm happy to be slightly punty in this round, try and take some risks, try and get some points if possible, against the teams that haven't got their wild card left, so they can't afford to take the risks that I can. So in goal, I've got Sommer from Switzerland, and my bench goalie is Olsen from Sweden. And they play against each other in the round of 16, so it means I'm guaranteed to have at least one going through. I don't know about that strategy, really. If you don't have the bench boost, that's probably not a wise strategy, because you want to have those alternating days, as I say. Because I have my bench boost, they're both going to be playing anyway. I can't change the goalkeepers around, so that doesn't matter to me. And one of them is guaranteed to be eliminated, but with the wild card to use next week, that is all fine. In defence, I've got Grankvist, already tipped him, already said enough about him. He is nailed on in every team in the world. If you're not going to put him in your team, then there's something wrong with you. If you're sat there thinking, well, everyone's going to have him, so I'm not, and I need to get a differential, don't be stupid. Get your differentials in better areas where there's better value to be had. This is a stupid decision to not have him, in my opinion, whether you have your wild card or not. Because even if you don't have your wild card, all the other people without a wild card are still going to bring him in anyway. Then got Varela from Uruguay, already spoken about him as well. Not sure on him. If he does look like he's lost his place, or if there's any doubt around him, then I will have to ship him out. Harry Mcguire from England at 5.0. I looked at him pre-tournament and I thought that he provided some decent value, but with Gary Cahill, I wasn't 100% sure who would start, so I avoided Mcguire. But at 5.0, he looks like he could have some value. He's also got an absolutely massive head, which England aim for on the vast majority of set pieces. So he could pick up a goal or he could pick up an assist. They quite often like to go to the back post with Mcguire nodding it back across goal. Then got Meunier from Belgium. If it does look like Meunier is going to miss out because of his yellow card and risk of suspension, I might look at bringing Kieran Trippier back in, who I had in the group stages, but then I'll have double England defence. Who knows, I might stick with that, I might switch it up. Trippier takes a lot of set pieces for England, so he's a really good pick in my opinion. Even without a clean sheet for England, which they probably will have because they're the best team in the world, they could get some attacking returns between them anyway. My sub-defender is Ricardo Rodriguez from Switzerland, who also takes penalties. He's a little bit more expensive at 5.5, and Switzerland haven't had a penalty yet, but he does take penalties as their #1 penalty taker and a defender, so similar to Grankvist, I think he provides great value based on that alone. It's worth noting, you might think that I'm placing a lot of emphasis on penalties, but the points scored in extra time also count. So when players are getting tired, I've got a feeling a few more penalties might be given in extra time because of lazy challenges or things like that. Penalty shootouts don't count, so it's worth bearing that in mind. But with the extra time situation and points being scored in extra time as well, I think nailed on defensive penalty takers are a really good pick because they're not going to get subbed off either. In midfield, currently I've got Golovin from Russia. A little bit unsure on him, but he looks really good. I'm looking forward to seeing him if he joins the Premier League as rumoured. Looks like he might be going to Chelsea. Who knows if that will go through, but he looks really exciting. Playing against Spain, so a tricky fixture, but they've not been the tightest at the back, Spain. So with Golovin's creativity and Russia being the host nation, they've got the whole country behind them. They could nick a goal, and he takes set pieces as well, so he could be in with a shout at points. Not sure if I'll keep him in my team. You know what? He's looking like he might make it in at this moment in time. Then I've got Christian Eriksen and Luka Modric. Already spoken about both of these because they're on penalties. Again, these two play against each other, but I don't think that matters too much. There's nothing saying that both teams can't get a penalty. They also take free kicks as well. They're on so many set pieces, sometimes on corners as well. Everything with these two teams goes through those two players, so I think both of them are good picks. But if you haven't got your wild card, it might be a little bit risky going with both, as you know that one is guaranteed to be knocked out. My sub-midfielders, I've got Inui, as I already tipped, from Japan, at 4.6, bench fodder, nailed on for Japan and just dirt cheap, allowing me to invest funds in the rest of the team. And then I've got Quintero from Colombia. I know I've already said England are guaranteed to have a nailed on clean sheet, but you never know. There could be some like fluke thing that happens where like Quintero somehow scores, but England don't concede. Jokes aside, I think Quintero is a great player. If James misses out, then Quintero will be even more important for the Colombian team. He takes set pieces. He already scored a brilliant free kick in the groups, which went under the wall. He just looks class, and he's very cheap as well. 5.7, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's somewhere around that bracket. So again, he's like an enabler for the team, but also offers some real value as well. And then up front, as you can already see, Harold Kane, Neymar, and Lukaku. Neymar's someone that I was avoiding like the plague pre-tournament because I just thought he was a bit overpriced, and Coutinho provides some really good value. But Neymar, watching him, He is the most selfish player in the world. It is ridiculous. But selfish players are brilliant for fantasy. He takes set pieces, he's on penalties, as is Harry Kane. Only Lukaku at the moment in my forward line who isn't on pens. That is if Eden Hazard's on the pitch anyway. But I do think Lukaku might be worth the punt because Japan are small. He is massive and he does like to absolutely bombard his way through these smaller lesser ability teams. No offense if anyone Japanese is watching. So that is it. That is my thoughts on the unlimited transfers. That is my current draft team that I'm sure will change. I've hopefully given you some options there that you can consider in your defense, midfielder and attack and goalkeeper. Remember the important points that you need your brackets to rotate. If you haven't got a wild card, goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, you need them to be playing on different days so you can make substitutions if you want, to make captain changes if you want. It looks like I've got some fairly decent captaincy options at the moment. I don't have anyone in that day one bracket. I would like to get someone in. One player that might be worth a look in that I forgot to mention so far, Higuain for Argentina. If you do think Argentina's fortunes could change, Higuain is just 8.9. He's a great striker. Argentina just don't seem to work, so I'm probably going to avoid him. But if you're looking for someone in that day one bracket that you can captain, perhaps it might be worth looking at him. I think he might keep his place over Aguero. So what do you think about my team? What do you think about the tips that I've given in this video as well? Do you agree with them, disagree with them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, I'll reply to as many of you as I possibly can. Make sure you hit the like button as well if you have found this video useful, and if you do want to see more videos from me, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I just want to finish on a bit of bad news, or good news if you hate me. This will be my last Fantasy World Cup video. I'll be keeping the Twitter updated, as I've already said. There's a link in the description below, so go and follow me on Twitter, but I'm just going to be so busy over the next couple of weeks that I won't be able to get these videos out. However, I am happy to say this was really just a trial for me to do Fantasy Premier League content going forward. So if you are interested in hearing from me on fantasy football, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I will be back pre-season. I'll have loads of videos out. I'll have stuff all through the season as well with regards to Fantasy Premier League or FPL. I look forward to seeing you in another video and throughout the next season. Best of luck going forward with Fantasy World Cup, and I hope you all have a great day.